All right, everyone. This is part 2, a continuation of my experience being disfellowshipped and shunned. I got emotional. It has been some years, but just thinking about what I went through, I just kind of went back to that time and felt the hurt and the shame of being disfellowshipped. The friends that I was close to, you had those that would talk to you outside the hall, not like have a full-on relationship type thing, but if you saw them out, they would speak. Some would ask how you're doing and say they missed you. Then you had those, again, like I said, that act like you did not exist. So that was hard. That was very hard. Like I attend all the meetings, and even being seated at the meetings, there would be friends that would come through, and if I was sitting on a back row, they would squeeze my shoulder, touch my shoulder, pull my hair. It was sisters picking at me some kind of way, and to let me know they see me and they love me and they miss me, is how that worked. Which, shunning is not loving at all. It is not a way to help a person who's gone through something, or maybe going through something, or maybe dealing with something. It's not a way to help a person. It actually is awful. My disfellowshipping was wrong. Like, I'll go ahead and tell it. I didn't want to because I'm like embarrassed. And so I actually went to the brothers for help over a situation, and we were having the conversation about dating, what's appropriate dating, and fornication, and physical PDA, public displays of affection between a man and a woman, couples. So this particular brother said that in his opinion that holding hands was considered fornication. Holding hands. Now he's a married man, but holding hands. And so I simply stated, well, I don't see that. I don't see it that way. And he just stood up. He said, well, you're never going to figure it out. You need to be disfellowshipped. And, you're just going to keep getting in trouble, and you need to be disfellowshipped. And literally, I looked at the other brothers, because there's normally 3. So it was him and 2 others. Like, are y'all not going to step in? Are y'all not going to speak? Or y'all not? Because he at the time was the overseer, which is like the head pastor in other churches. And they didn't say anything. And these were 2, I'll go ahead and say 2 meek brothers, 2 real quiet brothers. They hardly ever said much of anything. They basically were like ministerial servants who just got promoted to elders. And so the overseer disfellowshipped me because I did not believe that holding hands was fornication, because we didn't even finish the conversation about appropriate behavior when you're dating. I know what appropriate behavior is with dating, but for him to sit there and say that holding hands was fornication, and I was like, I don't see it that way. And we didn't even get a chance to finish the conversation. He was just done talking to me. He's like, we're going to talk amongst themselves. The brothers talk amongst themselves. And it's really, now I think about it, it's really asinine. And I think they literally say that if I'm not mistaken, they pray over it, and then whatever answer comes to them, then you're disfellowshipped or not disfellowshipped or publicly reproved. So in the end, they disfellowshipped me over me not believing that holding hands is fornication. What's appropriate affection when you're not married to somebody? So I never told anyone else what was going on, because I was just like, I was following rules like an idiot. But we are allowed to like write a letter if we wanted like another hearing, you know, for someone else to go over what these brothers decided. And I had 30 days. So I wrote another letter because I wanted another brother to, I wanted another trial. I wanted it to be heard because I felt this was completely wrong. This is asinine. This is not what I came up here for. So I wrote the letter. I gave it to him because he was the overseer. He took my letter and he stuck it in the pocket of his jacket. And he said, I'll look at it. He never, which I had the right to, he never gave me another hearing. He just let the 30 days go by and announced that I was disfellowshipped. So, oh, and he also proceeded to say that the whole thing of, I can't remember scriptures anymore, that, but I'll just say what he said, which hurt me, which caused a huge depression in me, that, don't get upset, excuse me, that Jehovah was not going to hear my prayers, that I had a wicked heart, and that he was not going to hear my prayers. And because I was not sorry for what I had done, because I kept messing up. So, and that's why, you know, that, and he said there was no point in praying because Jehovah was not going to hear my prayers. So basically he's saying, you know, God's not going to hear my prayers, and that I was basically a forgotten one. So in my heart of hearts, I didn't feel that way. First, I knew what he said was BS, and I couldn't understand this whole situation. And believe me, everything that took place, I look back, I should have ran. I should have ran and never came back. But I can honestly say there's a certain part of me that was prideful. It's like, I'm not going to get disfellowshipped. And everybody in the hall, because you're not told, and if you don't tell, you know, go around telling everybody what's going on, they just assume things, and I didn't want ugly things assumed about me. But that was just my pride. I should have took it and left, because there's times I was like, there's so many times that God tried to say, Trina, this is not where you belong, and I kept running back. I kept going. I keep putting you out, and you keep going back, or giving you a reason to leave, and you keep going back. So when he told me that God wasn't going to hear my prayers, I went home, huge depression, and I wasn't supposed to speak to anybody, you know, because I'm disfellowship. I wasn't supposed to talk to anybody. I think the only people I could talk to were the brothers who were over my committee that disfellowshipped me. Well, I did reach out to another brother who I trusted, and I told him what he said about the Most High not hearing my prayer because of my disfellowshipping, and that there was no point in praying, because that's what he said. And he said that was not true. And he said, you pray and you keep praying. So I'll tell another story. So going through depression, and there's things that when I pray, there's certain things I pray over. For instance, I single parent, working hard, finances kind of tight, and I overspent, and I needed to pay my bills, but I did not know until I sat down. So I will, when I go to pay my bills, I would pray before I paid my bills that my money would be spent in the best way to take care of my family. Sat down, paid my bills, and I realized I was short. I was like, and I remember what I did. I overspent. I went and bought something I should not have bought. So that means my money was short to make sure my bills were taken care of. So I literally prayed over it, and I said, okay, I'm going to let it be. And there was a knock at the door, and I needed $189.19. There was a knock at the door, and it was my son's father. And it's the middle of the day. There was no reason we weren't together. He didn't come to my house. There's a knock at my door. It's another story. But there's a knock at my door. I answer the door, and I'm like, yeah, what's going on? And he says, oh, I came to the house to bring this to you. And he handed me a check. I was like, oh, okay. So I said, thank you. He was on his cell phone talking, barely paying me any attention. He says, well, I'll see you. I'll leave. And he left. And then I looked at the check, And the check was for exactly $189.19, exactly what I needed to pay my bill. As they say, he'll give you what you need, no more. So I got exactly $189.19 to pay the bill. So, and this is after this disfellowshipping, and how the particular brother who disfellowshipped me said that he would not hear my prayers. So literally I did. I stood there crying in my hallway, because at that moment, no one could tell me that God does not hear me. No one. So, with that being said, I know that God is real, and I know that he hears me. And for that man to tell me that God does not hear me based on his opinion was actually cruel and absolutely unnecessary. And I have no idea what his problem was. But the organization of Jehovah's Witness, everybody needs to completely shun it and leave it. Excuse me. But again, I didn't realize how painful it was. Excuse me. Going back going back in time in my mind with that, it brought up some hurtful pain, and I can't wait to be rid of that pain. So I'm hoping that by telling my story, that can help someone to understand that if you are a part of that organization or considering it, then you run. Have nothing to do with it. All right, guys, thank you for listening. I hope that I was clear, and I hope you can hear me. And thank you for listening.